Welcome back to the Amazon's podcast. My third guest of the evening. So glad you can join us. The podcast is brought to you by Maximus Posing Suits, who is a title sponsor. Let your inner warrior shine. Custom-made competition suits for victory on every stage. MaximusPosingSuits.com. And of course, a new sponsor, bronze level sponsor, Murder Weight. You're not just wearing a clothing brand, you're wearing a mindset. Murderweight.com. And of course, GPS photography and video. Why photography and video? Because a photo's worth 1,000 words, video's worth 1,000,000. GPS photo and video.com. My guest, IFBB Olympian Sheena Ohlig. Been away from the stage for a while, but it's about to get busy. It's about time in 2024 as you are getting ready for the Toronto Pro, which came out on the list today. Where you been? How you doing? What's up?
How's it going, Glenn? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I jumped at the opportunity, so I appreciate the invite. Where have I been? I've been in the trenches. I've been in the trenches. We're getting ready for the Toronto Pro Super Show. Super excited to do this show. It's actually one of the shows that I've been wanting to do throughout my career, to be honest. So I was excited that it was, still on the schedule and still, was hosting women's bodybuilding.
Right.
And we sort of just took the year sort of as it came. I was in prep. I started, revving things up and just wanted to see how my body sort of responded to things. We didn't necessarily put a show out right from the jump. We sort of just wanted to feel things out as we went along, and it just made sense for where this show landed and where we were in the prep and in the process that we jump into this show. So for 2023, I took the year off, so I didn't compete all of 2023. I missed you guys. I missed the stage. I missed all the promoters and the fans, and just really being in the community of bodybuilders. When you're on social media and you're in the Facebook and Instagram and online, and you're seeing everybody getting ready for shows and they're in prep or they're, in peak week. That is a community. Like, we've built a family sort of that we're connected to through the struggle there. So it is hard to watch everybody go through that process and like not really be in it, but sort of being on the outskirts. So that was tough for 2023, but we had bigger fish to fry. We needed to like make the improvements to really go after, the improvements that we wanted to make and some of the changes and the growth and the refinement, and also just give my body some rest and some, recuperation. Because I competed multiple shows in the year since 2019. I want to say 2 or 3 shows per year since 2019. So I learned a lot, but I think 2023 was definitely the year that gave me an opportunity to sort of reset, and now we're ready to fire it up.
Glad you're back. What would you say to the thing that you learned most in having that year off? I know you had the itch. You was wanting to get back.
Yeah.
What did you learn in that year?
Definitely recovery is just as important as the training. I think a lot of competitors, if you're an athlete, if you're competitive minded, competitive spirited, if you're anything like me, you just want to push through. You just want to go, push, working through the sticking points and the tough times and the difficult things, and, no days off. And you sort of do this like grinding sort of savage mode. And I felt, I felt the effects of that in 2022. And I think that my body really gave me the signals that I needed to. And thankfully I was willing to listen to it, to pull back, dial things back, shut things down when they needed to, and really give my body the rest and the recovery that it needed so that it could respond. It's like you have to treat the machine well, right? You have to you have to keep up the maintenance on the machine. And it's like, yes, you're doing the eating. Yes, you're doing the sleeping. Yes, you're doing the training, but are you doing like the oil changes and the tire rotations and, the balances and all that kind of stuff? So, I don't think I was doing enough of that, and I felt the effects, and my body, just needed some downtime, and I'm happy that I gave it to it. And, I think it allowed us to come out of the gates hot this season. So I'm excited.
And your coach is Dr. Trey Hodge.
Trey Hodge, that's my man.
Down here in South Carolina.
That's right.
I'm in,
That's right.
I'm
I've
in
been
North
working with
Carolina,
Trey
so that's
since
cool.
2019. He took me on. I was still in women's physique, and we did 2019 women's physique, 2020 women's physique, but then switched to women's bodybuilding that same year.
Talk to me about what made you make the shift or the change, the transition from women's physique to women's bodybuilding. Who was involved in that conversation, and what was the conversation between you and your coach?
Believe it or not, we made that decision probably 3 days out from the show.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was for the Chicago Pro, which was being
Yeah.
hosted in Atlanta because this was during, the pandemic. So there were a lot of states that were shut down still. Atlanta was open, and, the promoters held it there for the Chicago Pro. And about 3 days out from the show, he just sent me a text. He was like, yo, according to your check-in pictures, like, I think we got to give women's bodybuilding a go. Like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. You're the coach. So he reached out to a couple of his friends, a couple of his colleagues, a couple of people that he trusts in the league. And they gave him some feedback, and, they said, yeah, I think she would do well. Like, let's see how it looks. I think because of my height, maybe, and because of my athletic build, I am a former collegiate athlete, a Division I, scholarship athlete. So I ran track, hurdles, high jump, basketball.
Yeah.
And I think that just gave me a really strong athletic foundation. So my body did respond really well to training. And believe it or not, I actually started out in figure. Like in my amateur days, I started out in figure. And then I actually went pro in women's physique. So, the feedback that I got from the judges when I started out in figure was like, nope, too big, too athletic. We've got this new division. And this was 2011, 2012. We've got this new division coming out. You are the shape for that division. So did that, went pro there, and stuck it out, right? So I did a few shows, women's physique, and placed well. I was sort of typically in that top 10 conversation, but never really had an official coach. I was always sort of doing my own prep, kind of just winging it and figuring it out as I went. And then when I connected with Trey, he gave me real clear insight and direction and strategy. And so I think that my shape was being held back, just trying to accomplish or achieve the conditioning sort of, criteria for women's physique, the way that they were going. And I think that I was holding myself back as far as my development was concerned, the size and the shape. So we sort of took the brakes off. And even though when I went into that show, because it was just 3 days out, I was dieted down for women's physique. So I fared well, I think, because of my athletic nature, but because I was dieted down so much for women's physique, I didn't have the size or the fullness for women's bodybuilding. So I wound up actually taking, I want to say it was maybe 7th or 8th in that show. I think it was I got second call out. I got first call out, believe it or not. But then Steve Weinberger, he was like, oh, no, get back on the diagonal. once he called 6 or 7 of us out, he was like, Sheena back on the diagonal. So, that's the funny thing about judging, right? It's so subjective, and they do have to judge who they have on stage. So I think if there's anything to learn from that, it's take it with a grain of salt. It is subjective. Just bring your best package. So yeah, 3 days before the show, we decided to jump in it. We gave it a go, learned a lot about it just in that one experience. And I was hooked. I was like, this is where I want to be. This is it. I want the bigger shoulders. I want the bigger back. I want the denser muscle. I want it to fill out my frame a little bit more. So we've been working towards that ever since.
And, as we talked about, because you were in the running for the sponsorship, if people may not remember, it was such a tough decision.
Yeah.
It was hard. I think I'm gonna have a panel next time.
You had a lot of good, ladies out there. So
yeah. But one of the things we talked about, I think you are the art of femininity. It's not on the scorecard, but it is. I think you're the word I would use also to describe you as elegance. When you look at your posing on stage, you're one of the taller girls.
5'7",
and people may not know you also have a model background, so a former model. So I mean, just beautiful on stage.
Thank you.
When
I
you look at that, uh, you're welcome. Because I like you made it tough. You being tall like that, 5'7". Ashley, I think is 4'9", maybe 5 feet.
hmm
Ashley Jones.
That's right. And that's my girl too. That's one of my
Yeah,
sorority sisters. We're in the same
yeah,
sorority.
yeah,
So shout out to Ashley. Hey Silver. Yeah, you know, I couldn't be more happy or more proud that, you know,
yeah,
she got that sponsorship. And I think she's a great representation for women's bodybuilding for sure.
definitely. So y'all are alphas, right?
Yes, AKAs, baby. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
And what was your line name?
Oh,
Oh,
full
you don't have to say
throttle,
that you
full
want to.
throttle. AKA Machiavelli.
Machiavelli. Wow.
hmm
So the biggest thing is putting on size on a larger frame or a taller frame. How does that match up with someone like a Ashley Jones, this shorter,
Right.
And then when you look at the overall what you've seen in 2024 versus 2023, every year is different, and
hmm
everybody looks amazing. So speak on that for me.
Sure. Well, just in terms of structure, right? I think that is a struggle that every bodybuilder sort of faces, every taller bodybuilder faces, and I think just across the board, right?
Hmm.
Because you know the taller bodybuilders can say, "Oh, we struggle, and this is a fight because it's easier to pack on a lot of tissue on a small frame." But then you have the
Right.
shorter, you know, bodybuilders that say, "Man, the bigger bodybuilders, you know, all they have to do is, put this muscle here, and it makes their X frame look that much better, or their angles or their lines, or they have that much more room to grow, or if they have just a good amount of muscle on their frame, your eyes are naturally going to go to that taller bodybuilder. So I think
Right.
there's pros and cons for both statures or both
Mhm.
structures. um Being on the taller side, I'm not the tallest, but I am, 5'7" versus a
Right.
5 foot, 4'9",
Yeah.
5 foot. I definitely, there's a disparity there between the
Right.
weight and how much size somebody could put on and how they would compare, right? And I think
Yeah.
that is one of the major reasons why you have the open class versus the 212 class. You have these 212 guys, and they're just like shorter stature, but they're packing on a lot of muscle. But no matter how much muscle they pack on, I mean, you know, um, you look at any of the 212 guys, right? And you put them
Mhm.
against an open guy, even like, a mediocre sort of like open guy. And they're not going to be able to compare just because an open guy has so much more height, so much more
Mhm.
size, so much more density. Your eyes are naturally going to be pulled towards an open guy. Mad props to like Tonio Burton and a lot of the 212 guys who have made the
Mhm.
transition to open, because they are battling with the big dogs. And
Right.
I think that they're making a name, and they're sort of breaking sort of that, that stigma that the 212 guys can't compare or can't hold up. So I think that there's pros and cons to it. I think that as a 5'7" bodybuilder, I'm not even going to say taller or shorter. I think you just have to
Mhm.
play to your strengths, right? So for me, I'm going to play to my
Mhm.
strengths, play to my lines. I'm going to play towards my shape and my symmetry.
Yes.
I'm going to play towards the things that are going to allow me to give more of that, the tighter waist and that illusion of, the wider shoulders and, the bigger legs. Thankfully, I have, track legs. So,
Yes, you
I
do.
can, my legs, they treat me good. I love them.
Yeah.
I got to treat them right. So, I think there is something to say about knowing those disparities, like being aware of them,
Right.
and doing everything that you can, like controlling what you can control in order to improve where you are a little weaker, and
Mhm.
then sort of mask, those weaknesses, and then build up and highlight and amplify the strengths.
Gotcha. Thanks for being so candid. I really do. When you look at the field, those that are qualified, those are just on the outside looking in. This is going to be a great Olympia. 60 years.
Hmm.
Roughly 17, 18 weeks left. What's been your thoughts so far on the season?
My thoughts so far in the season is just take it one show at a time. Take it one day at a time. Take it one training session at a time. Take it one meal at a time. Not get too far ahead of myself. I think that has allowed me to keep a straight head on, like, my head straight on my shoulders, and not
Mm-hmm.
get too far out away from the present moment, because I do like to enjoy the process. And I think, it can be lost if you're so consumed with what's 4 weeks from now, what's 12 weeks from now, what's 17 weeks from now, or I got to
Right.
do this in order to get here. So the way that we even approached this season was just taking it one session at a time, knowing that we wanted to compete, but
Mm-hmm.
not putting, a bullseye on any one particular show. Like at a
Right.
point, I was looking at a point, I wanted to do something super early. I was like, maybe we do the Triple O Dynasty. It's
Right.
Andrea's show, it's Sydney's show, like it's an
Yeah.
all women's show. Like, oh, that'd be
Yeah.
great. But my body still wasn't ready yet. It
Yeah.
wasn't responding yet. It wasn't, doing what we needed it to do just yet. And not that I've been fighting it, but I think I've just been letting it sort of do its thing and sort of listening to it. And then we also thought about, like, all right, well then what about New York? Let's see how we
Right.
feel in New York. So we were kind of just playing it out. And I don't, and this is my own personal thing. I typically don't look at the competitor list. I don't check
Right.
Instagram or socials to see who's doing the show. I try not to get too much in my head or think about the other competitors that are going to show up. If I decide to do a show, that's it. It doesn't matter who else is on the roster.
Right.
I would have loved to compete against Ashley, because last year we wound up going to what show did we do? I think we were at Chicago together, and she was doing
Mm-hmm.
women's physique, and obviously I was in women's bodybuilding. So it was great that we did that show, but we were in different divisions. So how cool would it have been, if we would have been on stage together? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I didn't get wrapped up in that idea, and I just sort of listened to the coach and listened to my
Mm-hmm.
body, and I would love to be at the Olympia.
Yeah.
It would be a dream, especially on the 60th anniversary. It's back in Vegas. It gets
Mm-hmm.
me back to the Olympia stage. I'll be a two-time Olympian.
Yes.
I think it just says something about sort of getting that second time Olympia. Like, it's not a fluke. You didn't just
No.
happen to
Right.
win one time and never get back. So there is something that's driving me to get back to the stage. Because as any athlete or competitor will tell you, I think there's a little bit of, imposter syndrome that goes into prep. There's self-doubt that goes into prep. And not that I
Mm-hmm.
doubt myself or that we doubt ourselves, but we constantly hold ourselves to this higher degree of expectation. And it's like good enough is never good enough. Right.
Right.
So I think to the average person, you say, oh, I've been to the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. They'd be like, oh, that's great. You're done then,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, no, I got to go back.
Just beginning. Exactly.
We got to do it
Because
again. We got to get better. We got to place better. So definitely excited to have that opportunity to make it back to the stage. But again, yes, that is the goal. But right now, the most important thing is like what's right in front of me. And that's, 4 days from now when
the 50
we
meter
get
target after
to
300.
Toronto. That's right. Keep your eyes on the target.
Yeah. So when you look at now the field is qualified, and you look at the Toronto Pro Showdown coming up this weekend, you win the Toronto Pro. Are you going to do another show before? And you're also on the list for Rising Phoenix, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. We did get the invitation for Rising Phoenix. Super excited for that show. Love that show. We have such a good time at the Rising Phoenix. I think it just
Mm-hmm.
goes to show, the camaraderie between all of us bodybuilders, and,
Right.
the relationships that we've built, the friendships, and, who we really are. Like, it really is a
Mm-hmm.
representation of women's bodybuilding. So I'm excited to
Right.
do that. I wouldn't be opposed to doing another show. It's not like we have anything, again, there's nothing in the
Yeah.
crosshairs just yet. We just want to figure out what this show looks like, get the feedback from the judges, get the feedback from the film, the
Mhm.
video, the photos, see where we need to improve,
Yeah.
and do
And I'm
that.
not asking you to tip your hand, but I'm just saying Linda
Sure.
Murray
Listen,
in Chicago
the
is right
part
on
of
the.
the year has
Yeah.
really great shows, right? So you
Yeah.
still have Chicago, you still have Tampa, you still have Atlanta, you
Yeah.
have the Linda
Mhm.
Murray Atlanta show. So there's a good handful of shows still for women's bodybuilding. that will give you an opportunity, to get to the
Mm-hmm.
Olympia, and or just to test your strategy, because
Right.
I think for women's bodybuilders, we do have to show up to these
Mm-hmm.
shows as often as we can, right? Because
Right.
the same way
Yeah.
that open guys, they'll do 2, 3, 4, 5, shows, or maybe not 5, but they'll do 2 or 3 shows. They'll win and they'll be like, well, I'm going to the next one. They'll try to like, keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
And I think why not? Like there's already not enough money in women's bodybuilding. So if you have the opportunity to go and, take your momentum into another win, why not?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I struggle with on that is that because there are already so little shows for women's bodybuilding,
Right.
I find that it's unfortunate. It doesn't really give us the opportunity to do that. If we were to do that, let's say, Ashley were to come and do 2, 3, 4 shows, it would
Mm-hmm.
take a qualification away from another competitor, and that would already shorten or already decrease the already small amount of girls that there already will be at the Olympia. There will literally only be, let's just say there's one individual unique winner from each show. There will only
Right.
be maybe 10, 11 competitors at the Olympia if there's no repeats, and
Mm-hmm.
if everybody actually attends, because sometimes people don't
Right.
attend. They'll get the qualification and pull out, or
Right.
close
Things
off the
life happens.
life happens, sure. So I would love the opportunity to compete more and
Mm-hmm.
keep rolling into win after win and collecting that prize money. But then also
Mm-hmm.
we want a bigger field. So we do want
Right.
unique winners to come so that we have a bigger field of girls to compete against at the Olympia.
Right. And when you look at it, it's the best of the best. But to play devil's advocate, um, just because, well, I want to take a spot from somebody else. There is no, it's the best of the best, and everybody's trying to be the champ.
That's right.
But I gotta say, if the prize money goes up,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have the big dogs stomping all the way to Olympia. We go up
Absolutely.
ten thousand
Absolutely.
dollars as a base. You just saw what happened with the Texas Pro, with Sarah Vegas, 15K in women's
That's right.
physique. This would be great because
And
nobody's
that's
gonna
what I'm
shy away from
hoping
the money.
for, and I know, I listen, there's so much to discuss on this topic. And I know
Oh
this could
yeah,
probably be a whole nother episode. I know that there's been so much controversy, within the league and within, about the divisions and things like that. I do, as a competitor, I really do believe that there does need to be more marketing and more promotion
yes,
of women's bodybuilding, women's physique. You simply cannot pull these shows, right? Pull the divisions from the shows, from these, the shows, the different tiered shows, from the Texas, or from the Atlanta, or from the Louisiana, or from any of these, the Optimum Classic, or from, like, you can't pull
right,
the divisions from the shows and then say, oh, well, you guys aren't showing up in the numbers we need you to. Well, as competitors, if the money isn't right,
right.
like, you're giving us, let's just say for first place, you're giving $2,000 versus a $10,000 or $20,000 for the men's open.
Mm-hmm.
If you're giving us $2,000, right, as a top tier athlete, does it make more sense for me to push my season and jump into that show and win that $2,000, or should I push it to a bigger purse, the 4,000, the 6,000, or whatever the
Right,
case may be, like, and save my body? Because of course, as a female bodybuilder, as a woman bodybuilder, there are significantly higher risks and things that we have to manage, and hormones and things like that we have to manage, that require a little bit more of a strategic approach to doing shows. It's not in our best
right,
interest to do 2, 3, 4, 5 shows in a year. So we do have to be strategic about it. And if you do want a certain look to make that division more marketable, then you have to start awarding that look. You can't say, oh, well, it's not marketable, you need to look like this, but then award the
right.
completely opposite look. There's so many different facets, right? And then I think also on the competitor side, like, I recognize that as promoters, you want, a quality show. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want, a show with only 2 or 3 or 4 athletes coming in, and maybe, they're newer pros, and maybe they're not bringing the quality condition or the quality size that you like, and maybe that's not the representation that you want at your show. But at the same time, right, we as competitors have to show up, right? We have to,
Right.
hold ourselves to a higher level of performance. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it has to be this, like, I think it has to, like, mesh together. I think we have to, you know, come together from both sides, and I think that it needs to be bolstered up, and then also we need to show up. So I'm not gonna ramble on about it, because I could go
No,
on
I
and on.
love everything that you said, and we're definitely going to talk about it in the near future as well. Because I'm hoping after the season is over, there's like a summit between the promoters in the women's physique division and women's
Yeah,
bodybuilding. Hey, to work it out, you know, it's prize
definitely.
money. It's when the show is on the schedule. It's how you promote the show,
That's
and
right.
Triple O Dynasty is already out there. And one of the biggest things to come out so far, there is going to be more prize money. So
Right.
good things. Women's Bodybuilding for Real podcast. Love
Yes.
it. When is it coming back? Are you looking for sponsors?
Absolutely.
Women's Bodybuilding for Real podcast.
Back off what we just talked about, right?
Yes.
Absolutely looking for sponsors. Right now, I am sponsored by Titan Nutrition.
Great.
You know, I have a couple of sponsors that, you know, are putting in, and, you know, they're supporting the show. But there can never be too many sponsors, right? You know, I
Right.
get you know, product, and I get product placement, but, you know, it's all about the dollars and cents, right?
Yeah, exactly. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
If it don't
You're
make dollars, it don't make
absolutely
sense.
right.
And I want to put out a quality show, because I think that by having a platform that amplifies our voices, it's
Right.
going to allow us to really show who we are, what we're about, show more of that personal side of the
Mhm.
competitors, but also show the business side, and show the side that is not just, you know, fetishized by the fans, or,
Yeah.
you know, by the different type of quality characters out there. It's not bad mouthed by the general public. Like, if we can actually
Right.
show, you know, that we're athletes, and that we're competitive, and that we have these ideas, and, you know, we have these brains, and we have amazing professionals, you know, in the division,
You do.
and amazing people just with great hearts in the division. So women's bodybuilding for real is like my baby, and I want to release the next episode, but I want to do it in a way that's going to give us the biggest launch, and, like, you know, give us the biggest reach. So
Mhm. Yeah.
ideally, I'm going to get through this first show. That was really my main focus. Get
Right.
through this first show, and then I already have guests lined up and episodes lined up, so I'm excited to do that.
Excellent.
And I actually plan on having it produced, you know, by you know, I'm going to partner with somebody to produce it, so that I'm not doing the editing and all that, because I was doing all the editing
Gotcha.
and everything. But,
I
you know,
know. Trust me, I know.
it's tough. It's tough to do
I know.
you know, the cutting and the trimming and the music and
Mhm.
the images and all that. It's just like,
Yeah. The
really have to
thumbnails, and it's
in
like
that vision.
guest counseling and everything. But and I think it's great. I loved it. Missed the show. Glad it's going to be back. Not
Thank you.
like I'm looking for the competition. I'm in concert with you. Trust me, as we've talked. So I'm looking forward for the Women's Bodybuilding for Real podcast to be back. Sheena Ohlig, I'm not
Count
going to
on
hold
it.
you up. It's peak week.
It's peak week, and I'm hungry.
Yeah, and I'm gonna let you go so you can get some rest. So you're gonna come back on next week after the show?
Absolutely. We got to get that W, baby.
Yeah,
Let's go.
we have lots to talk about. We can go further. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Sheena.
Glenn, thank you so much. Appreciate all your support. To everybody out there, make sure you guys continue to tune in, keep supporting, drop those comments, subscribe, hit that like button, all that good stuff. Keep promoting and pushing and amplifying women's bodybuilding. Glenn's doing a great job. We couldn't be more grateful. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Sheena. Go get some rest. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye-bye. Sheena Ohlig on her way to the Toronto Pro Showdown this weekend. Looking for great things. The Women's Bodybuilding for Real podcast is going to be back. It's been a great show, ladies and gentlemen. Continue to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow night as we got so much going on this week. Eight competitors are coming on this week. So what started out as just a biannual or bi-weekly show is now a weekly show with a lot of episodes. So talk soon. See you guys tomorrow night. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to Amazon's fitmag.com. Sheena, love you. Thanks. And we'll see y'all.